Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jody and this will be the second edition of this year's Fall Food Friday. I'm going to be making a special bread today. I've done on my channel, I've done banana bread and banana muffins, and I think I've shown my pumpkin bread recipe, I don't remember. But today I'm gonna marry the two and we're gonna do pumpkin banana bread. So I think it's gonna be really yummy and it will make 2 loaves. So right now I've got my oven preheating to 350 and let's get started mixing up our ingredients. Okay, so now I'm just gonna get started with the dry ingredients. In this bowl I have 3 cups of flour and we are gonna add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. And then we'll do 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. And then let's do, 2 teaspoons of baking soda. Have you ever been baking, oh, the oven's preheated. Have you ever been baking and it either calls for soda or flour, baking soda or baking powder, and then you do the wrong one? That happens to me all the time. So in this recipe, we've got both, so you're fine. We're gonna do 1/4 a teaspoon of ground cloves. Okay, and then 1/4 a teaspoon of nutmeg. And then it calls for 1/2 teaspoon of ginger, and I don't have any ginger, so I'm just gonna substitute with a little bit of allspice instead. And I'm just gonna do about 1/2 teaspoon of allspice. Now that is it for our dry ingredients. And I'm just gonna use this little dough whisk to kind of blend this up together. And then we will start with what we need for our wet ingredients. That's good. All right, now let's get started with our wet ingredients. The first thing I'm gonna do is add in 3 mashed overwrapped bananas, as with any good banana bread. And then we are gonna add, let's go ahead and do the 1 cup of sugar. Okay. Go ahead and mix that up a little. All right, now we have 1 cup of pumpkin. This is just, canned pumpkin, not pumpkin pie mix, but pure pumpkin. All right, so a cup of that. And then we're gonna do 1/2 cup of brown sugar. And then we have 2/3 cup of vegetable oil. Then we've got 3 eggs. Two and 3. And then we're gonna do some pumpkin pie spice. We're gonna do 1/2 teaspoon of the pumpkin pie spice. All right, now we're gonna add in about 1/2 of our dry mixture. Blend again. So I have my 2 loaf pans here, greased and floured. And the tricky part is gonna be getting this batter in here half and half. One. So while our bread is baking, I thought that I would come on and just chat with y'all for a little bit. I mentioned in my last video that I did have coronavirus, and it was during my, I guess, like 13, 14, 15 week of pregnancy. So it was definitely a struggle added to a struggle of nausea and everything else. But I just thought that I would share kind of my experience and my symptoms and what I went through, because what I'm learning from knowing a lot of different people that are having it and going through it is it's just so different for so many people. I'm not really sure why it affects people in different ways, and I don't know, I don't think any of us know anything about it, but I was just going to kind of walk you through my experience. Just I mean, I kind of kept up with it. I kept track, just taking notes on my symptoms and different things, just so that I would know and I guess remember when things happen. So very first thing, right off the bat, was August 4th. I woke up and I had a really sore throat. So I have strep throat pretty much every year. I have like a bout of strep throat. And that's what this felt like. I just had a really sore throat every time I swallowed, and that was it that day. I was nervous about that because I know that is, maybe one of the symptoms would be having a sore throat or cough or something like that. And we had a lot of people in our community that were getting positive. And so I was a little nervous, but I wasn't too bad because I didn't feel too bad. But I started feeling worse as the night went on. So the next day, August 5th, is when I got my first test and I tested positive. So by this time, August 5th, like by the time of my test, I had fever that morning, my sore throat, I had a cough, I had body aches, just kind of like flu when you just have body aches all over. I had a really bad headache, and then I had pain just all in my neck. I just said neck ache because that's just what I felt like. So I had those symptoms for a couple days. And when I got my test, with being pregnant, they pretty much told me just all you can do is take Tylenol to keep your fever in check, and just, call a doctor if anything gets worse or you have problems breathing. So there's not a lot of help, a lot of things you can do. Then a couple days later, August 7th, was the worst day, because that is the day that I lost my sense of taste and smell. So that has been, for me personally, in my experience, that has been the worst symptom of coronavirus yet. And I don't know if it was just added because I was pregnant, if it made it, feel that much worse for me, because I was also having cravings and wanting things. And another thing is, just when you're sick, a lot of times certain foods that you eat and things, that's the only thing that really gives you comfort. So I would want things or crave things, and I would eat them or drink them, and there's just nothing there. So that really got me down, and that kind of started a downhill of just feeling worse and worse. So that was August 7th. August 8th, my sore throat went away. I no longer had any pain in my throat when I swallowed or anything like that, but all the other symptoms were there. Then things stayed the same until a few days later, August 11th, my ears became extremely muffled. Like, it sounded like everyone that was talking to me were underwater, or I was underwater, and it was just that really muffled sound, but yet my voice in my own head was really loud. So I was starting to feel like, okay, I've lost my sense of taste and smell, and now I feel like hearing, so all I have left, I only have a few senses left. So I was really starting to get down, and just, I don't know, just almost a depressed feeling there for a little while, because I was just stuck in bed. I didn't have energy to do anything else, and I didn't want to be around the kids and everybody, so I just was just stuck in my bed, but I couldn't eat anything or drink anything, or anything to kind of comfort you. So it was just a really hard time. Okay, so then August 12th, the next day after my new ear symptom came, was the first day I didn't have fever all day long. So from that day on, August 12th on, I had no more fever. But all the other symptoms were just as they were. August 17th, so a few days after that, was when I went and got my second test, because I was supposed to be having my, I think it was 14-week doctor appointment at the very beginning of all this. And so when I called them to let them know that I was sick, they said, well, you'll have to test negative, and then once you test negative, call us and we'll fit you in and go. So during all this time of just feeling bad and everything, I was also worried about the baby. And of course, not being able to feel the baby yet or anything like that. Of course, I was just anxious to get back to my doctor so that I could, have a sonogram or hear heartbeat or anything like that. So I was really anxious to hurry and feel better and test again. So since I hadn't had fever for about, 4 or 5 days, I went ahead and went in to be tested, even though I wasn't feeling great, but I felt like I probably, like the live active virus or something must have been gone. Because I know that there are people, multiple people, they still have symptoms, but they don't actually have coronavirus anymore. So that's why I went to test, and it was negative. And they did say the things that were wrong with me, are things that are gonna linger, and they don't know how long. Basically, the doctor said as far as the loss of taste and smell goes, there are people who get it back in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and then there are people who lost it in March and they're sitting in August and still don't have it. So that wasn't very encouraging, and that's just been stressful for me, because I want to know when it's gonna come back and what. So on the day I tested negative, I still, of course, couldn't taste or smell, and my ears were still really muffled, sounded like water, and I just still had a really bad headache. Now, by this point, my headache had went from just a really bad headache to, I don't know how to describe it other than like if you were hit on the head or something and you were touching a bruise. My whole head, from my forehead all the way down to the back of my hair, if I touched it or just brushed it, did anything, it felt like just touching a bruise. Like it was just so tender and sore. So that was the headache that I had at that point. It had gone from being, like a headache when you're sick to that. So, but that was just a terrible feeling to have all the time, because it always, something was always touching my head or a pillow or something, and it just hurt. So my head felt that way, my ears were that way, my no taste and smell. And that was when I tested negative. So, adding all that up, my ears cleared up August 27th. Were when it was like somewhere in the middle of August 17th and August 27th, my left ear got better, but my right ear stayed really, really muffled. And so the day that finally cleared up and I could hear perfectly clear from both ears was August 27th. So that lasted 11 days, the muffled ears. And then it was 13 days from my positive test to my negative test. It felt like a lot longer, but adding it up, that was 13 days. And then as far as my fever went, that was 7 days. I had 7 days of fever, and then my fever was gone. Now, the worst part. Right now I'm 38 days after my positive test, so 38 days from having it. But I am 34 days today of having no taste and smell, which means yes, today, as I sit here, I still have absolutely 0 sense of taste or smell. It's almost like being in the dark or something. It's just, unless you're experiencing it, you don't understand how bad it is, because you don't realize how many like just small things during the day that you smell, or just things that you know that are familiar to you and smell, until you don't smell for, I mean, it's over a month now. And so I've like recognized things that I normally would smell and I don't. Or somebody will say, oh, that stinks, or this doesn't smell good, or do you smell that? Not remembering, and I don't smell anything, and I do not taste anything. Everything tastes like eating or drinking water or paper or something. It's just the texture. I just have to keep like reminding myself of what things did taste like, and I just try to tell myself what they taste like, and I just go ahead and eat, because if I weren't pregnant, or if I weren't just thinking to myself, you have to still eat, I would just not want to eat anything, because there's just no joy or, you know, comfort. There's just nothing. So I've continued to eat, and I, you know, do what I'm supposed to do, but yeah, that's been the worst part, and I'm still waiting, praying for my sense of taste to just miraculously come back one day when I wake up. So hopefully it will. Now, here's something kind of strange that goes along with today's video. A few days ago, we were at Target, and John and Kinsey were ordering something from Starbucks, and I decided, well, it is pumpkin spice season and I love that, and I'm gonna go ahead and order me Frappuccino with pumpkin spice in it. So I ordered it, and it was the first time that I got a little bitty like taste of something. It didn't taste like what it would normally taste like, but it was like after I took a drink, after I swallowed, I had just such a faint little hint of pumpkin. And so since that day, I've had, I think, 3 of those now, and every time I drink that, I have this small hint of pumpkin. So with today's bread, maybe, I'm hoping, maybe when I eat that, I will have a little sense of pumpkin. I don't know why. That's been the only thing so far that has come through a little, and I wouldn't even say I'm tasting it, but it's just like, I don't know, maybe it's the smell after I swallow that's coming back, but there's just a little bit, it's just a little glimmer of hope for me, because something is there. So anyways, maybe that is a good sign, and maybe I will be tasting and smelling soon. And when I was just down sick in bed, I kept thinking to myself, what if this just keeps lasting and I'm never gonna smell? And I thought, what if I have my newborn baby and I can't just smell her head, and so there's just all these things you just sit and think, what if I can't smell this, or what if I'll never taste this again or smell that again? And so, but I know that won't happen. I know it will come back. I just don't know when, and I wish I knew when. But anyways, that is just my little experience with coronavirus while pregnant. So I thought I would share that with y'all, and let me know in the comments, have you or anyone you know had coronavirus yet, or had any experience with that? And also, if you've lost your sense of taste and smell, how long was it before you got it back? So, all right, well, our bread has about 15 minutes left to go, so I will be back when it's ready.